You do it 12 to 20 times every minute. You do it while you sleep, while you eat, while you read this sentence right now. You have never once had to think about it. And yet, according to decades of research, you are almost certainly doing it wrong. Breathing, the most automatic thing your body does. And it turns out most people in the modern world have fundamentally broken it. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that puts you in a hospital, but in a slow, invisible way that is quietly reshaping your face, your sleep, your stress levels, your athletic performance, and your mental health, a way that has been building for thousands of years, and a way that almost nobody is talking about. To understand how this happened, you have to go back, way back, before cities, before agriculture, before language, back to a version of you that lived in a world where every breath was a negotiation with survival. Your ancient ancestors breathed through their noses, almost exclusively. This was not a choice, it was a biological necessity. The nose is not just a hole in your face, it is a sophisticated air processing system that took millions of years to evolve. It filters particles. It humidifies air before it hits your lungs. It warms cold air to body temperature. It produces nitric oxide, a molecule that dilates your blood vessels and allows oxygen to transfer more efficiently into your bloodstream. The nose does all of this automatically, invisibly, every single breath. The mouth does none of it. The mouth is a backup system, an emergency exit. It exists for eating, for speaking, for the moments when your nose is blocked and your body needs air fast. It was never designed to be your primary breathing channel. But somewhere in the last few hundred years, that changed. James Nestor, a journalist who spent a decade embedded with scientists, breath researchers, and pulmonologists, documented what he found in his book, Breath. He describes a quiet epidemic. An epidemic of open mouths. He writes about how skeletal records from ancient and pre-industrial populations show near-perfect dental arches, straight teeth, wide airways, and strong jaw structures, and how modern skulls, starting around the Industrial Revolution, begin to show something different. Crowded teeth, narrowed palates, shrunken jaws, smaller airways. The cause? Researchers believe it is a combination of softer food and chronic mouth breathing. When you chew hard, fibrous food, the mechanical stress on your jaw stimulates bone growth. Your palate widens, your airway expands, your face develops the bone structure to hold your teeth straight. When you eat soft processed food, none of that happens. And when you breathe through your mouth chronically, the tongue drops from the roof of the mouth, removing the internal structural pressure that shapes your palate from the inside. Your face, in other words, is not fixed. It is being shaped right now by how you breathe. This sounds almost impossible. The idea that the way air enters your body is slowly altering your anatomy. But the evidence is significant. Orthodontist researcher Kevin Boyd has spent years analyzing skulls from pre-industrial populations and comparing them to modern ones. The difference is striking. Ancient people almost universally had wide dental arches, no impacted wisdom teeth, and clear nasal airways. Modern people have narrower arches, crowded teeth, and a dramatically higher rate of sleep-disordered breathing. And that last part matters enormously. When you breathe through your mouth at night, your airway narrows, your tongue falls back, soft tissue vibrates, you snore. And in more serious cases, your airway collapses entirely for seconds at a time. This is sleep apnea, and it affects an estimated 1 billion people worldwide, the vast majority of them undiagnosed. They wake up exhausted. They struggle to concentrate. They are more likely to develop cardiovascular disease, depression, and metabolic disorders. And most of them have no idea their breathing is the cause. But this is not just a sleep problem. It is a waking problem too. Biochemist Yandel Henderson spent decades in the early 20th century studying what he called the chemical regulation of breathing. And what he found overturned a lot of common assumptions. Most people believe that breathing deeply means breathing in more oxygen. It makes intuitive sense. But the reality is more complicated. What actually triggers your urge to breathe is not low oxygen. It is high carbon dioxide. Your body is far more sensitive to CO2 than to O2, and this matters in a counterintuitive way. When you overbreathe, when you take big open-mouthed gulps of air, you blow off carbon dioxide faster than your body produces it. And without enough CO2 in your blood, a protein called hemoglobin holds onto oxygen more tightly and refuses to release it to your tissues. You can be breathing hard and actually delivering less oxygen to your brain and muscles than someone breathing slowly and quietly through their nose. This is called the Bohr Effect, discovered by physiologist Christian Bohr in 1904. And it means that the quality of your breathing is not measured by how much air you take in. It is measured by how efficiently your body uses what it gets. Patrick McKeown, an Irish breathing educator who spent years studying under the Buteyko method, has worked with thousands of clients to reduce their breathing volume. Not their oxygen intake, their volume. Slower, quieter, through the nose. And his clients report reductions in asthma symptoms, better sleep, lower resting heart rates, and reduced anxiety. Because breathing is not just mechanical, it is biochemical. And it is deeply connected to your nervous system. Here is how. When you breathe fast and shallow through your mouth, you activate your sympathetic nervous system. Your body reads rapid breathing as a signal of threat. Heart rate rises, cortisol increases, muscles tense. Your body prepares to run, even if you are sitting at a desk. Even if there is no threat, your nervous system does not know the difference between hyperventilating from panic and hyperventilating from poor breathing habits. It just responds. When you breathe slowly through your nose, the opposite happens. Your diaphragm engages fully. Your vagus nerve activates. Parasympathetic tone increases. Your body enters a state of calm, focused readiness. The kind of state your ancestors were in when they were tracking prey, reading the environment, or navigating complex social dynamics. Alert, but not alarmed. This is why breathing is the one autonomic function you can consciously control. Your heart beats without your input. Your digestion runs without your input. But your breath sits at the intersection of automatic and deliberate. And because of that, it is a lever. A direct line into your nervous system, one that most people never touch. The research here has accelerated dramatically in the last decade. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Neurophysiology found that nasal breathing synchronizes neural oscillations in the hippocampus and amygdala, the regions of your brain responsible for memory and emotional processing. When you breathe through your mouth, that synchronization is disrupted. When you breathe through your nose, your brain literally operates more coherently. Another study, conducted at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, had researchers deliberately block their own nasal passages for 10 days, forcing themselves to breathe exclusively through their mouths. In 10 days. 10 days of mouth breathing produced measurable drops in blood oxygen saturation during sleep, increased snoring in participants who had never snored before, and elevated stress biomarkers. 10 days. The nose changes everything, and most people are bypassing it entirely. So, what does correct breathing actually look like? It is slower than you think, quieter than you think. The nose, always. Light breathing through the diaphragm, not the chest. A natural pause at the end of each exhale before the next inhale begins. around 5 to 6 full breaths per minute, compared to the modern average of 12 to 20. Some researchers have found that this rate, approximately 5.5 seconds in and 5.5 seconds out, produces something remarkable in the cardiovascular system. Heart rate variability, a measure of nervous system health, peaks. Blood pressure drops, stress markers decrease. It is sometimes called resonance breathing or coherent breathing. And across multiple studies, including work done by Stephen Elliott and D. Edmondson, it consistently produces measurable physiological improvements in a matter of minutes. You already have all the equipment you need to do this. You were born with it: a nose, a diaphragm, a nervous system perfectly calibrated to respond to your breath. None of this requires gear or supplements or even much time. It requires only attention. The kind of attention your ancestors had by necessity in a world that demanded full physical presence. The kind of attention that modern life has slowly replaced with soft food and open mouths, and the low-level chronic stress of a species that forgot how to breathe. Tonight, you will take somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 breaths. Most of them will pass through without a single moment of your awareness. But now you know what is happening inside those breaths. The nitric oxide, the Bohr Effect, the vagus nerve, the slow reshaping of your airway and your face over years and decades. And the next time you catch yourself, mouth breathing, chest rising and falling in quick, shallow waves, cortisol ticking upward for no reason you can name, you will know exactly what is happening. And you will close your mouth and breathe through your nose, slowly, the way you were always meant to, the way your ancestors did without ever having to think about it, which is exactly how you are going to do it too.